nhớ rong bé cho là sự kinh chẳng ha trồng hay rất là rong sát cái món nó giờ lúc sáng để bé tàu một cái để rất số mò cái là giờ để mò sáng để nó bé hoa ta edition report nó vậy cái giờ ít khó chịu sinh dùng đó cái trang tự một số sự vì giờ ta lúc chơi nhiều bé hạt số sự là nó chỉ lúc sau chỉ giàu thì bé cũng cho chơi xứ ta chỉ nhớ trong món nó giờ ít mò cái chịu sinh cái gạo bé sao mà trong cái trang tự ha khá cho mẹ là bé chủ cho tăng cho số lượng cái giờ từ US ambassador cái một nhau trong khu vực cho là cho các lưu trong lúc cho America lưu chỉ cho Hmong nhau trong đó luôn trong Saint Paul Saint Minnesota cái giờ hoa ta face the Hmong community nó nè giờ nhau trong lúc sau là lúc chẳng thơ cái tàu cho các lưu chỉ cho Hmong nhau trong lúc đi cậu chỉ lưu bé liền đuổi xuống ở hàng cậu chỉ đó nó giờ ambassador đã nhau cùng nếu có tàu lưu thang dù ha cho các lưu khai tàu ha ta lúc cho là chùa cái chỉ khu cái lỗ mong rong lại chang lão cũng muốn đào lên trong tù tàu mong mua lù nua ta tôi cái sơ sinh nhau trụ lên là chùa giờ rong lại chang cái lúc sau nó của cho mấy số lời mình chơi trò tôi cái sự thẳng dùng đó giờ đã nhọc không cái tàu lù mình chơi trò bé trộm mong nhau trong đó luôn trong Saint Paul Saint Minnesota
nhớ rung cho ý trọng nhẹ chỉ cái tên là thiệt trong phần mà chùa xuân số tu cú giờ Richard bảo là lúc bé linh tu nước tiệt cổ xa xong ở trên cổ chi nhớ đồn trong Saint Paul Saint Minnesota America tu ambassador lấy giờ tu sơ chiếu tới America nó muốn sơ chiếu tới America nhớ đồn tới là chùa tu tuần chi trên mông nhớ đồn trong Saint Paul Saint Minnesota thì là sẽ cho số một số sinh nhớ đồn đặc nó bé một số sinh đồ kỳ nó chỉ đối bây bé là luật rồi sai những đồ một kế là video production rồi cho công trình xử lý chế bé cho cái gì vừa là cho cái gì công này có thể có trên hình thiết kế chặt tại đồ này có lúcคือlà luật giờ có sao tao bé tôi những đồ một kế đồ cóหุ่นทำไปถัดต่อตรงนี้จนเดอช่วยอีโจจีเป้ปลอดปลอจีเลยย่อปลออีปลอสุ่มเป้ปลอปลออีแล้วย่อก็ส่งต่อตัวจะอีเมลดักกันหนอไปโรงเรียนเราก็ถัดซ้อนตรงนี้
This is a good year. It's a perfect timing for Ambassador Kroon to come visit the Hmong and Lao community here in Minnesota for the first time. Because this year, 2015, also marks our 40th year that we set foot on the land of 10,000 lakes. We have come a long way, my fellow Hmong and Lao Americans, in this new land of opportunity, from learning English to finding jobs, from being troubled youth to become community leaders, from renter to homeowner and still ongoing as business owners. Although our community may be seen as a glass half full, if we go back and think back to the time when we started here as refugees from a third world country, we, and I included, cannot be prouder of our combined accomplishment here in America.
ลูกเป้ลินตุนุติโกชาช่วงอาจจะกจีนยอดตรงเซนโพเซเมนโซตาอเมริกาตัวแอมบาสเดอร์เลยตัวเชอเกลที่อเมริกานอมูเชอเกลที่อเมริกายอดที่จะหลอดจัวตัวตัวชี้เจนมงยอดรุ่นตรงเซนโพเซเมนโซตา
กูจะบอกเลยว่าลูกเชนกูจะเราหอนตรงเซนโพเซเมนโซตาขอเราต่อกูจะไปมุนจีไปตัวสถานทูตเนี่ยเราชาติที่อเมริกาเนาะมัวสถานทูตเนี่ยเราชาติที่จะหลอดจัวจากการเรารู้ที่อเมริกาเราหมดที่สอสื่อเขาเราจะเราเปียกเราไปหาหนึ่งมงเราเดียวจงเลยจ้า
จงสวัสดีข้าพเจ้ามีความยินดีหลายที่ได้มีโอกาสมาพบปะกับปันธานอยู่ที่นี่ Thank you very much to St. Paul College, Metro State, and to the Council on Asian Pacific Minnesotans, and particularly to Sia her for organizing this event today. We're really delighted to be here today and have the opportunity to talk with you. And I'll speak hopefully briefly about a little bit about my time in Laos and offer you a few observations from my time there. Describe the state of United States-Lao relations and say a few words about the role of the Hmong American, Lao American community in the social and economic development of Laos. And then finally, and probably most importantly, I'd like to answer any questions you might have and also listen to any comments you might offer me and suggestions for how I might do my job better. I've been in Laos for a year and a half now and have done a great deal of traveling in the country. Laos now has 18 provinces. They just created a new one a few months back. And I've so far been to 16 of the 18 provinces, which if you've ever been to Laos, you'd realize involves a lot of time in the car, driving on not very good dirt roads. But it's been really delightful and enjoyable. And so 2 more provinces to go. Pong Saliv in the far northwest, and also to Saisambun, the newly created province, which I'm hoping to visit next month. Some observations. Laos has had the fastest growing economy in Southeast Asia for the last several years. It's been growing at 8% per year. It's a growth that's been driven primarily by resource extraction and hydropower. And the hydropower will continue for several years, although somewhat controversial. We can talk a little bit about that if you're interested. But it's probably not a good strategy for long-term economic growth. The areas that I look at for more long-term economic growth are manufacturing, tourism, and agricultural processing. And I think actually Minnesota could play a role in the latter, in the agricultural processing area. The roads in Laos are improving markedly. I visited several months ago a new special economic zone in Savannah Ket, which is in the middle part of Laos and sits on the Mekong River across the river from Thailand. And because of the roads are getting better, it's only about a 9-hour drive from Savannah Ket to Da Nang in Vietnam, which is an international port, which offers great opportunities for economic development. This is the east-west corridor that economists have been talking about for a number of years. And we've seen some major investment in Savannah Ket, especially in a special economic zone there. Toyota just opened up a factory manufacturing automobile seats for cars that are going to be assembled in Thailand. Nikon is there with an assembly operation, wants to bring more of its supply chain there. There's a French optical lens company. There's a Dutch company that makes parts for seats for Boeing and Airbus, and so on and so forth. So Savannah Ket has actually been growing at a rate of about 11% per year, which I think if you do the math means that they could double their GDP in something like 6 years. So the cities in Laos are becoming more prosperous, but the rural areas are still very poor. And I took a trip up some of the northern provinces recently, Luang Prabang, Udon Sai, Luang Nam Ta, Bokeo, and visited some projects that we support, school meals projects, mother and child health projects. And some of these remote villages are very, very poor. In one village we stopped, there was what they call temporary dormitories for students, because the students lived in other villages that were so far from the village where there was a school that they needed to stay at the school, at least during the school days. And in this one particular village, they had a building made out of bamboo and and a thatched roof, which of course leaked when it rained. And it was about the size of this open area where we are, and had 2 long benches in it. And in there, 60 girls stayed during the school week. So this is the level of development in the rural areas. It's also a very young country. So 70% of the population is under age 30, 50% is under age 20. So what that means is, in terms of their experience of the war, is that you have 70% of the population were born 10 years after the war ended, and you have 70% of the population who look at the world in a very different way than the 79-year-olds who are running the government. So there's a tension there. A few words on bilateral relations between the U.S. and Laos. So overall, it's in the United States' interest to ensure that Laos does not become overly dependent on any single country for its economic growth, and is able to act independently and in its own interest on political matters. So to achieve that goal, we are trying to position the United States as a trusted and reliable partner, and as an option to other powerful countries who are trying to exert their influence in Laos. So to achieve that goal, we're trying to build a new relationship for the 21st century while we continue to address the legacies of the 20th. So the legacies of the 20th century include our ongoing search for U.S. personnel missing in action in Laos during the secret war. So there were a total of 525 U.S. personnel missing in action, and there are 305 who remain missing. So we are continuing to account for those personnel, and we're grateful for the cooperation of the government of Laos in that effort. We're also continuing to address the problem of unexploded ordnance from the war, which until recently we're claiming over 300 casualties per year, mainly from young children finding the anti-personnel weapons and playing with them as toys, and as a result either being killed or losing their parts of their arms or legs. Those casualties have been reduced to around 40 or 50 a year, which is still, of course, 40 or 50 too many. So in recent years, we've increased our funding for UXO clearance and for victims assistance and for risk education, first from 5 million to 9 million per year, and then from 9 million to 12 million per year. And I think this year we'll probably increase it to 13 million once we get through our very complicated budget process. In building a new relationship for the 21st century, we're working with the government of Laos in a number of areas. One is education, where we have a school meals program, which is funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which provides a small snack made out of a corn-soy mixture, together with bananas or vegetables from the village to give it a little more flavor, which provides an incentive for young children to come to school, because the children are coming from such poor families that they would not have anything to eat all day long if they came to school. And I don't know about you, but if I was a young child and I wasn't going to get anything to eat all day, I don't think I'd be going to school, and they weren't. And with the introduction of this program, the attendance rates have gone up from like 65% to 97%, and in one village the leaders told us even that there were young children lying about their age so they could get into school to get the snack. That's a good program. We're about to start a new program run by USAID to address the very serious problem of child malnutrition. Laos has one of the highest levels of child stunting in the world. The stunting rate nationwide is 44%. In the remote provinces, it's over 60%. It's a complicated issue that involves not just food security, but water and sanitation and cultural practices and other issues that need to be addressed. We're working with the government on the environment, particularly on the hydropower issue and mitigating the downstream impacts of the dams that the government is constructing, which have become very controversial, especially in the downstream countries in Cambodia and Vietnam. So we have experts from Army Corps of Engineers, from the U.S. Department of Interior, from the Department of Energy, who are working with the government on areas like sedimentation and fisheries and dam safety and operation. The Defense Department is building schools and hospitals in remote areas, often the same areas where we're conducting searches for U.S. personnel missing in action. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control is working with the Ministry of Health in trying to control diseases like malaria, influenza, and HIV. And the Minister of Health came to the United States and visited this past September and went to Atlanta and met with Dr. Frieden, the director of the Centers for Disease Control, and to the Washington, met with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, went to the Pentagon and met with Defense Department people working on health issues, which I think was an important visit. The Minister of Health is a man named Dr. Exavan Vongvichit, who is the stepson of the second president of the Laos, PDR, and lived in the caves in Vieng Sai and is married to a woman who was born in the caves. And when they visited the Pentagon, they said they were a little bit afraid to go to the Pentagon, and when they went there, they realized this is just a big office building with lots of people working in it. And so these kind of visits really help to create people-to-people ties and increase understanding. Just this past February, the United States and the government of Laos hosted a conference in the city of Pak Se in the southern Laos with the other countries in the lower Mekong, Thailand and Cambodia, Vietnam and Burma, and with other donors to talk about the challenges that are accompanying development in the lower Mekong region, including the development of hydropower. And while we're doing that, we're of course continuing to monitor the human rights, religious freedom, and labor conditions. We publish annual reports to the Congress on these topics, and we speak out when there are human rights violations, including in the case 2 years ago of the NGO activist Sambat Sompong. And we are working with the government to build the legal institutions, the courts and the prosecutors and the police, to develop the judicial system so that it can operate in a way so that Laos can meet its self-professed goal of becoming a rule of law state by 2020 and have a system that can provide due process of law. A few words about the role of the Lao American community and the Hmong American community in social and economic development of Laos. Laos is still classified as a least developed country, which is in the category of the UN and the multilateral development banks is the poorest category of countries in the world. It has a goal of graduating from least developed country status by 2020, which actually means it will lose a few benefits associated with being categorized as a least developed country, but it does want to progress. But one of the great assets, I think, that it could have in that effort, which I think for the most part is untapped, is the Lao American community, the Hmong American community, could really contribute to the social and economic development of the country. And it's a large community, and compared to the size of the country, Laos is a small country, about 6 million people, and there's 600,000 Lao Americans here, so one-tenth of the population of Laos, of course if you don't count all the Lao that actually live in Thailand, is here in the United States. Secretary of State Clinton gave a speech back a couple years ago at the second annual Global Diaspora Forum and talked about the role of communities like yours. It's a very interesting speech, but I won't bore you with the whole thing. Let me just read one paragraph of it. She said, "Diaspora communities have enormous potential to help solve problems and create opportunities in their countries of origin, because we believe that, as the title of this conference says, we can move forward by giving back. By tapping into the experiences, the energy, the expertise of diaspora communities, we can reverse the so-called brain drain that slows progress in so many countries around the world, and instead offer the benefits of the brain gain." So I do think that you have so much to offer Laos, and I think the government of Laos is at a point where they would welcome that assistance. And I know that many of you are already playing such roles in Laos, but I encourage more of you to become involved in this way. You have so very much to contribute, both to Laos and to the United States, as you're doing here in St. Paul and Minneapolis. So, Kop Chai, Hua Jiao, thank you very much, and be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Pe wala lo do sa yung do mu ke le video production to ja kong chen sili che pe jo ke shi yo lo ja ke shi kong ne ko te ko chen ning the ke cha ta do ne ko lu khu wala lo yo ka sa to pe to yung do mu ke to ko hun da pe tha to tung ni ton da jo i to chi pe plau to plau chi le yo plau i plau sum pe plau to plau i le ja ka song da to to ja email da ka no pe rong se yung to ka tha son da tung ni bộ trong tủ sợi chế này bây giờ mong tàu cổng lúc con chơi nọ, thế tàu nông dân tàu lò lụp bông xe dân này bây giờ mong nhớ đồ thế cho là chùa, thế cho nhớ đồ thế cho mấy cả nọ, uổng một chỉ tàu đồ thế cho là chùa, rồi gì nào cũng cho nó một sai cho đồ kỳ nọ.
There's many community people that U.S. citizens now cannot enter back into Laos because the Laos government put them into a so-called the blacklist.
I think one of the concerns you mentioned was the ability of Lao Americans to enter Laos. I mean, one of my main jobs is to represent American citizens in Laos and to help American citizens in Laos. So you all are American citizens now, so it's my job to help you. So I'd like to know about any problems you have in entering Laos. Certainly, many Lao Americans are coming back to Laos and are entering and exiting the country without any problems, including many of the people here. We actually have 2 Lao Americans working at the embassy now. My assistant in the front office is a Lao American, second generation, born in Connecticut. And the person who's running our regional malaria program was a Lao American who was born in Pak Se and taken across the river by his family when he was 1 year old. Came to this country, went to Georgetown, got a PhD from Johns Hopkins, and is back running our malaria program. So I know the Lao government welcomes many Lao Americans. Recently we had the Vice Mayor of Sacramento come, and he met with the Vice Mayor of Vientiane, Chen, and the Vice Mayor said that they welcome their Hmong brothers back to Laos. But that doesn't mean there aren't any problems in that respect. So I encourage you to come to Laos, and if you have difficulties getting in, or if you know of other people who have difficulties getting in, please let me know.
U.S. citizens, in particular, we are dealing with Hmong Americans who are going overseas to Laos and exploiting young girls and boys who are not of age. And usually a lot of these Americans who are going overseas and exploiting them, bring them back, marry them, and there's a huge difference in age of 50, 60-year-old men who marry 13, 14, 15-year-olds. And so we consider this a form of domestic violence, and it's something that we've been talking about and organizing around. Unfortunately, some of our organizers weren't able to be here. They're actually in Laos right now. But they also wanted me to let you know that in the past there has been communication, and they've talked to the U.S. Embassy, they've talked in Laos, and the consular officers and the consular chief who are all aware of this issue, but there has been no response to our requests for the embassy to work more with concerned U.S. citizens on this.
Well, thank you. That is a problem that we're very much aware of, and it's a problem that we spend a great deal of time on. We deal with it from the angle of consular fraud. So many of the cases that you're talking about involve fraud either in the let me explain from a consular point of view what's involved. So we have a type of visa which is called a fiancé visa. It's a K-1 visa, and so if someone is if an American citizen becomes engaged to a citizen of another country, they can apply for a visa for the citizen of the other country to come to the United States so that the two can become married. And that's a fiancé visa. It's a visa that we give around the world. The problem that we see in many cases from the Hmong American community is two kinds. One is the American misrepresenting his marital status. So in many of these cases, the American citizen is actually already married and already has a family, which would make him ineligible to get a fiancé visa for the young woman in Laos. So that's an angle that we investigate. The other area of fraud involves the age of the Lao citizen, of the Hmong young woman or girl in many cases. And there's a minimum age. I'm sorry, I don't know what it is, since I don't work in the consular section anymore, but let's say it's 18 years of age. In applying for the visa, the applicants know what the minimum age is, and they say the young woman is actually that age. often young woman is nowhere near that age, and is often 13 years old, something like that. So that those cases take a lot of investigation time, and we actually have a full-time ex-police officer who's a fraud investigator who looks into these cases. And of course we have Hmong speakers in the consular section. And we travel to the provinces to look into these cases. We go to the villages where the young women are from, and we talk to the village chiefs, and we look at the records, and we deny as many of these cases as we can. So that's kind of our part of the issue, and what we can do is deny visas to men who are already married, and deny visas to young girls who are too young.
ตะการในลูกของเชิงว่าตัวอเมริกา ambassador เราจะตัวเชเจียวได้จากอเมริกามุเชเจียวได้จากอเมริกาเนี่ยโดยที่เราจัวเตียเราต้องไม่ตรงหมอใจตอนนึงเราคงจะเชเจียวในเช่นมงเทียส่วนที่เรากูจะในมุใช้จอปอลีว่าอย่าตัวมั่วสื่อตัวชั่วโมงเนี่ยรู้สึกมีสตาตัวมั่วสื่อจะรู้กี่น้อง
I've been in Laos now for about a year and a half, and normally investors serve a 3-year tour. So if Paul's accounting is correct, and I'm sure it is, I'm one day over the halfway mark of my service as ambassador to the Laos PDR. I've been in the Foreign Service now for 30 years. This will be 30 years next month in April, and I can say that Laos is the favorite host of both my wife and I. It's a beautiful country. As you know, the people are wonderful, sweet, friendly people, and they have a lot. I think they have a lot to teach.
อีจงเนี่ยที่ติ้งจะเที่ยจงพิมาชวนสุนสุตัวก็ในครบปอตาลันเดอร์ยอเมริกาตัว ambassador หรือยอตัวเชเจได้จากอเมริกามูเชเจได้จากอเมริกาเนี่ยโดยที่จะละจัวตัวจีเจนมงเนี่ยโดยตรงแซมพอลเซมินโซตาโดยลูกเปลินตุนุติโกชาชองเชโกจีมวนดาวเราลุ้นตรงนึงจะเกิดซึ่งจนเดไปเจนมงกูอยากรู้จักว่าหรือว่านักการจงในชวนสุตัวเป็นมาชินชิดัว เป้วลาหลวดโดยใช้อย่างด้วยมุกเกและยาวิดีโอโปรดักชั่นโดยจะก้งเชิงสิริเจเปเจ้าเกชิยัวและยาเกชิกงในก็ที่ก็เจนเองเทียเกชาแต่โดนในก็ลูกคือวลาหลวดยากษาต่อไปตัวอย่างด้วยมุกเกตัวก็หุ่นทับไปถัดต่อตรงนี้จนเดอจ่วยอีเจ้าจีเปเปล่าดรอปเปล่าอจีเลยยาเปล่าอีเปล่าเปล่าสุ่มเปเปล่าดรอปเปล่าอีและยาก็ส่งต่อตัวจะอีเมลดักกันหนอไปตรงเชียนเธอก็ถัดซ้อนตรงนี้
ส่วนจะเราถอดเจ้าตัวมงชั่วโมงradio กูอยากตัวมั่วจากสื่อหาเบี้ยหัวแต่ carriage เราอยากมั่วจากสื่อรู้จักเธอเกิดอยากได้หยกคมเราอยาก ambassador ได้หยกคมลุนเชื่อตัวจมงยอหุ่นตัวเสียงพอเสียงมิสตาอย่างนั้นเลยเป็นมง report หาตัวชั่วโมงเป็นกูอยากพงอยากเยอะเป็นกูอยากอีจอเกิดก็มั่วสื่อเรามั่วตัวกูมั่วเรากูมั่วตัวก็จะอย่างนั้นเป็นจอตู้มั่วสื่อเนาะ不论要某 report 还是某拉都都是人家做毛呢，要一毛个这跟个被某 report 头找能到多数毛哈，就错都叫都毛数数，要多数毛，被某 report 头找能到多，被这种毛数头还叫都毛数数，要多数毛来到，รู้จักเท่านั้นเนาะกูเขาจะไม่รู้ชื่อเลยเนาะซึ่ง做做努力打到的มันตะการจีไม่สุดเลยเนาะกูอยากอ่านว่า要多某 report ตัวจริงทุกสักแกไม่ตัวเซนแคลิฟอร์เนีย要多在อเมริกาชินจิตล้วน